only get one chance to make a first impression. That's why I have to do so much content, because you see a goofy guy at ASRM with red pants and a pompadour haircut, whatever I had from 2015 to 2020, have to do so much content in order to be able to redeem myself in case I was on the wrong side of the first impression. But sometimes that stuff actually really worked for me. But we're talking about first impressions today. For you, we're talking about your call center. We're talking about your intake team, the people that are responding to online contact forms as well. Your first impression. You can invest everything you want in brand, advertising, have a nice building, but you can also betray all of that if your prospective patient has a negative interaction in their first interaction with their team. And it can even, the result can even be even worse than that, because first impressions don't just get people in the door. They set the expectations for the process in which the patient needs to trust you, all but implicitly. In order for the first points of contact with your clinic to be the gold standard of concierge service, their goals must be aligned with those of the practice and those of the patient. That's why we're using a broad term, new fertility patient concierge team, instead of the separate teams that might go under that umbrella, like call center, digital chat team, new patient navigators. I'm using new fertility patient concierge team to cover all of that. In other resources, we'll talk about the structures of those roles, but in this article that I'm covering today, which you can find in the show notes, we're not going to type out all of this in the podcast. But if you want to read the article, we're giving you the 6 pillars for aligning this team with the measured growth and improvement of your group. They are practice goals, team outcomes, team profile, the education and coaching they need, how you recognize and evaluate them, and how you incentivize them. The first is the practice goals. Your new patient concierges, they're not just people that answer the phone. Don't think of them that way. Think of them as people that positively or negatively impact at least 4 major business goals. And you're probably working on at least one of these goals. Might be working on 2 or 3. Patient satisfaction, numero uno, should be one of everybody's goals. Number 2, new patient visits. Number 3, specific provider volume increase. Number 4, targeted region or office volume increase. So you might be slammed with new patients if you're a 15 doctor group. With 12 of those docs, you're slammed, but 3 of them aren't. Call center really, your new patient concierge team really helps here. When the roles aren't aligned with these specific practice business goals, they should know what the goals are. The systems for how they are evaluated, incentivized, and hired become expensive and counterproductive. I don't want this to be an expense for you. I want it to be an investment, and I want it to pay dividends for you. Second, team outcomes. So that was the practice goals. You're getting your new patient concierge team aligned with those practice goals. Now it's their outcomes. So the new patient concierge team doesn't have total control over the business goals. There's a number of things that impact those 4 goals that we just covered, but you can measure their impact by these 4 KPIs. 1 is the new patient appointments scheduled, the total of it, by team member relative to their goal year over year, month over month. It's new patient appointments scheduled. 2, conversion to appointment. 3, cancellations rescheduled. So that's your practice goals, your team outcomes. Your team profile is putting the right person in the concierge seat to begin with. We're looking for someone who is lower, not too low, in competitive drive and high in empathy and compassion. Many of you are worried, like, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to have a sales type of pressure when people are calling my fertility center. I don't want you to have that either. That's why we're not hiring for somebody that is very high on competitive drive, because they'll take these outcomes and drive it to the max. We want somebody that is high in empathy and compassion. They really take pride in being a resource. And there's a couple different personality assessments that you can use, but use a personality assessment. Use the caliper profile. For example, for empathy, this test screens for a combination of traits that can help you see how well a person reads a room. Are they flexible? Are they rigid? That's extremely insightful when hiring someone who has to be responsive to customers, and in your case, patients. Once an applicant or employee takes the caliper profile, their results are measured against one or more validated job modules, You can use Myers-Briggs, you can use Colby, whatever you're using, use it for these types of traits and make sure that you're being consistent across them. Promote the mission. You want to promote the mission to this team. They're not just answering the phone. If you think you're just hiring somebody to answer the phone, then they feel like that, well, that's all that I do. What does it really matter? Promote that sense of pride that they're the first line of people helping people struggling with infertility, LGBTQ plus people trying to build a family. They're the first line of that help. It's life-changing and highly personal service that they provide, and that should motivate them for the right people if you have the right people in the right seats. Pay a little bit above the customer service industry average. You don't necessarily have to pay so much, but we're trying to hit it from all angles. You want somebody who's really good at this. And if they're really good at this, it's worth paying them a little bit extra. So I don't want you to have to pay so much extra, although the job market that we're in right now is everybody's kind of doing that for everything. If you're promoting the mission and hiring the right people, you don't have to lean on this. You should just do it a little bit. And depending on what market you're in, go for that $20 to $27 per hour range. If the range seems higher than what you would pay for someone who isn't exceptionally money voted, consider these first two things. Like, one is just the job market that we're in right now, the Great Resignation. Two being inflation. And then hire for outcomes for which the personnel is responsible for achieving, or promote what they're like. Think of what they are responsible for achieving. If they actually do it, they're returning their investment. If they can actually make that one doc that you just had to pay $475 for, or $350 for, when you a few years back would have paid them 30% or 40% less than that, and you got to get them busy fast, but maybe they are taking a little bit longer to build their referral patterns, etc. If you have a really good new patient concierge team, they can help you return that investment a lot faster. And so think about that when $27 might seem like a lot. Okay, so to build your new patient concierge team, we talked about aligning the practice goals, giving the team their outcomes, building the right team profile. Fourth is the education and coaching that they need. Your call center and new patient navigators have to be experts in particular topics about your clinic and infertility. You can't have concierge level service without mastery of the material. There's at least 12 elements in what we call the syllabus. And if you'd like those, you can engage us for the goal diagnostic. We could talk more about those. But lastly, in that bucket of education and coaching, if you find that a particular team member is not performing to the level of others, it's necessary to coach them up or move them out. A negative attitude will spoil the bunch, and it demotivates the rest. Recognition. Once you move past education and coaching, how do we recognize these folks? This is the way of reinforcing that all team members are striving for the same goals and success. And it's important that recognition is aligned with the profile of person that you're hiring for and how you're incentivizing for them. There's a few different ways of motivating your concierge team on their own internal drivers: a tally board, a practice-wide email, a thank you board where people can write it about themselves, or you can write things on them, and a patient compliment repository. If you are doing your patient surveys, if you're getting data from your online reputation that they do say nice things about the people that answer their phones or get back to them, or the navigators, the people on that new patient concierge team. And it is good to have that repository of compliments for those people. Okay, finally, the incentives that these folks respond to in this structure is connecting to one. Yeah, sorry, Jason, I'm gonna pick up from incentives. The sixth and final pillar of a new fertility patient concierge team is the incentives. You've intentionally selected people who are motivated by helping others. You've established a system of recognition. Because the tasks of an ongoing new patient welcome team are ongoing, everyday endeavors, we have to be careful about additional incentives. We don't want to book new patient visits at all costs. Hiring someone who is too high in competitive drive, like we talked about, and gearing their compensation plan too much toward booked appointments is a recipe for pressuring new patients. We do not want that. We want to make sure that new patients are being offered the right solutions, are being offered the appointments, that they're not just having questions taken at face value, something that can be answered on a web page and sent away, that they could have gone to Wikipedia for because it's not actually your point of view because you didn't see them in a consult. We want to offer the appointments to people, and we want to be able to follow up with people, but we don't want anybody pressuring anything. So what we do want is to help people who are struggling to build their family to get expertise from a fertility specialist, and using incentives is just a way of keeping people's eyes on that, but they should be limited, because otherwise you'll do more harm than good, and you'll do more harm than good if they're not attainable. The incentives should connect to one of the desired outcomes, whether it's for the team or the individual. It should be reviewed and recognized weekly. It should be reviewed monthly or quarterly. The reward should be monthly or quarterly. And it should reference your organization's core values. The rewards can be gift cards, customized gift baskets, event tickets, team lunch, use of desirable parking spot. So these are smaller things. This is not like their compensation plan. You see the difference? It is just a way of tying up to the outcomes, so they're paying attention to it, but not so much that they're going crazy for it. Align your new patient concierge's goals with those of the practice and the patients, and you will be able to get the results. The folks that you hire to answer your phones are so much more than just that. They're the first point of contact for potential patients. They set the tone. They convey confidence and knowledge from the first interaction. Employ these six pillars to set your concierge team up for success. If you'd like our help doing that, we can talk about that in the Goal Diagnostic. It's $597. You've seen just the tip of the iceberg of what we have for these types of resources. And it's such a big part of what you do and how you set patients up. So if you'd like our help, you go to fertilitybridge.com and sign up for the Goal Diagnostic. And otherwise, I really hope you've enjoyed this and can use some of this information.